Well, thanks for staying with us. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Now, Cabinet is expected to formally be briefed this week over the possibility of going to the IMF for a program. This is what Joy Business has picked up from government sources. George Yafe has the scoop.
For some, this meeting could kickstart another round of briefings within government, as in whether the current conditions facing the economy, an IMF program could be the best option, rather than the homegrown programs aimed at stabilizing the economy. The decision to brief Cabinet followed a meeting over the weekend that discussed the options available to government in terms of restoring investor confidence and fast-tracking the stability of the economy. At the meeting, all the options were presented to the team, which included very senior ministers in government and some very critical persons at the presidency. Joy Business is learning that some two individuals that were opposed to the IMF program, arguing that we can manage the situation ourselves, have started softening their stance. Maybe after this briefing, we may get some clear understanding as in the way forward. That is, can the homegrown program do the trick, or the more we delay, the more the situation worsens? Well, looking at the current development, there is a likelihood that the decision to go or not to go for an IMF program could be captured in the media review of estimates to be presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to Parliament next month.
And even before the media review, we're hearing that government has established formal engagement with the International Monetary Fund over the possibility of signing up for a program. Joining me in studio with more on this is George Yafe. So, George, what are we picking up from your sources?
So what we understand is that this formal engagement looked at what could be in for us if we should go for a fund program. And Daryl, let us put it on record that the government has always been engaging the fund for several things. Even during the COVID-19 time, they were trying to get some support from the fund. But what we are picking up is that this engagement is linked to having a program for Ghana. So that is why we are all following this deeply. And that it was looking at whether Ghana could have gotten some additional support from the fund in terms of monetary. But the fund is also saying that for that fund that they have available, about more than $70 billion, you have to sign up to a program before you can get that support. And that is why we're seeing this engagement going on. What are the scenarios if we should sign up for a program? What program are we likely to go for? Because don't forget that whilst government was pushing hard this homegrown policy, the market was also pushing government to opt for a fund program. And that is why government was kind of trying to look in a bottle with two eyes. Whilst we push the homegrown policy, let us also engage the fund, which started somewhere around 3 months ago. And there have been several video calls with officials in Washington, D.C. on the options available. Even during the spring meetings, there were engagement with the IMF MD about what is in for Ghana.
And we know the government hasn't ruled out signing on to the IMF program. It is weighing its options. But then to take the step of going to establish a formal engagement, what does that signal? That government is more likely to go to the IMF? What
I mean, there were two persons within this government, and that were very critical. About 3 months ago, it was a no-no. The argument was that they can manage the economy. I mean, it's a sign of if you go to the fund, you can manage the economy. That was about 3 to 2 months ago, even a month ago. As of 2 weeks ago, these two individuals have softened their stance. They are now more open to an engagement to the IMF, and that is why it is now more likely now. If you want to rate it percentage-wise, it will be about 70 over 100 as likely going for a fund program, Daryl.
And so this formal engagement, approaching the IMF and talking about a possibility of a program, what does it entail? What kind of conversation?
Well, what are the options available for us? Again, we need to establish what is the problem. What kind of program is Ghana going for? Initially, from what we picked up, Ghana was pushing for a program that would not come with any funds. So you will talk about the policy credibility, Daryl, and that is what Ghana was looking like. Maybe this time around, it will come with some funds as well. So what is the challenge with Ghana right now? We need to first establish. All right. What are the policy alternatives that should be put in place? And the fund has several instruments. So these engagements are looking at all these things. And Daryl, even if government should say that we are going to a fund program today, it will take minimum 6 or 8 months for a program to be established. Wow. Or even looking up to a year. But don't forget that what is this government also trying to address? You want to restore investor confidence. Even that formal letter that will be signed by the governor of the Bank of Ghana and the finance minister to the fund, that could stimulate or bring about that investor confidence that you're looking for. So even if it's today, we may look at a situation where a program can kickstart from next year, Daryl.
Okay, and so, right, after the engagement, what happens? They wait?
After the engagement, when you want to also test the waters to see what will be available for you, then you have a situation where the finance minister and the governor of the Bank of Ghana will then put an intent that I want a program. Then the fund will also respond. There will be some initial visits and all those to establish what the problem is. And then we say, okay, looking at your problem, I think that as a policy credibility staff, you don't really need funds. This is what we will offer to you. These are the conditions and all those things. And so within these 6 months or 8 months, there will be back and forth engagement. The fund will be in. And don't forget that we have a formal engagement with the fund already. We have the Article 4 consultation, the staff consultation. So as we speak right now, the fund has a fair idea what Ghana's problem is. One of the taking issues is about our debt stock and how or what should be done to bring it under control. We're also picking up is that with some of government's flagship programs, it might be frozen if we have to push ahead with the program. But don't forget that government is also trying very hard to kickstart some of these programs already. So when they engage the fund, they would more of come up with some strength that, listen, this is what you're going to do. I've started that already. So it can then influence whatever conditions that the fund will put forward for the country, Ghana.
All right, we'll just wait and see as cabinet is also supposed to be briefed about this. Thank you very much, George, for that update. Well, former finance minister said Tekwe has warned any further delay in seeking assistance from the IMF would not bode well for the economy. Take a listen.
If we don't go to the IMF now, right, I have more questions. Are we able to weather the Ukraine war for as long as it takes? The G7 just met, right, and they are saying they are in for the long haul, which means that, quote, what they are saying is that we expect this to extend maybe to the end of the year or the rest. Are we able, to weather with our current condition, the inflationary things, the adjustments which the global central banks are doing, and now we are doing syndicated loans. Even if we were in the markets ordinarily, we would be borrowing at rates that now account which are going to be higher because of the global interest rate. So I'm saying that's another factor we need to consider, right? Given our current situation, are we able to, to harbor this? If crude oil prices continue to grow, if grains don't come, for wheat to go to, our two major wheat producers, bread and the rest. Those are the factors we should be talking about when we talk, about this. And I'm saying that where is the pride? Didn't we go back to the IMF for COVID loan? If we were that solid, why didn't we stomach it ourselves?
Well, the former finance minister has also been reacting to news that since its implementation 2 months ago, the e-levy has yielded only 60 million cedis against the target of 600 million. Mr. Tekwe says the tax policy needs a review.
We are making is that you don't chase a tax just because you want to rake in revenue. You expand the tax, but you streamline it to serve an objective. As I said, general consumption tax, anybody, if you go and pay accounting services, if you go and pay consultancy fees, multimedia to an expert and to others, you are required to pay VAT. And you can withdraw and you can, get a credit, for the tax that you pay on inputs. And so when we have a new economy, like the financial sector, petroleum services, and the rest, VAT is non-discriminatory. VAT says your consumption, once you are consuming, it doesn't matter whether you are buying a shoe, you are buying paper, you are buying, if you are a consumer, you pay the tax on it. That's what I meant, by the discrimination compared to e-levy. So taxes must be efficient, they must be non-discriminatory, and that's the enhancement, of taxes is not just about policy. It's not just about tax instruments. It's also about effective administration. So let's give GRA the wherewithal. That was going to be the modernization phase 2. The first phase was the creation of GRA, the revamp of all the tax laws, and the merger of IRS,
Right.
and
Right.
yes. So my point in summary is, quite apart from the low expectation, I guess the design of the e-levy, and let's be careful in comparing ourselves to other countries. They may not have the same design. It's also not about low rates, right?
Okay.
So so it is a matter of design we have to revisit.
It's a matter of design we have to revisit. That's the former finance minister. There have been calls for a review of the electronic transaction levy following this outcome we've been telling you about. George Ankuma is tax partner at Deloitte Ghana, joins us on Zoom for a conversation. Great to have you on the program, George. First of all, are you surprised at the outcome that in the first 2 months we are only receiving 10% of the estimated revenue from the e-levy?
Thank you, Daryl. I'm not surprised. If you look at the initial discussions around the public outcry for the e-levy to be effective. So I'm not surprised, because even before the implementation started, you see that there were a lot of panic withdrawals within the system. And so with the introduction of the e-levy, definitely you expect that transaction values will go down. The volumes will definitely also go down. That notwithstanding, we also definitely believe that as we go along, some people will also get on board, people who are not previously using it for one reason or the other, they still get on board. And so, in as much as we have not met the expected revenue, I think that that should have been expected, given that this is a new law. Nobody, I would say, enjoy paying taxes actually, and so people will definitely want to find ways and means that they can reduce the impact on them. And so, as a policy of tax policy, this will come out at the initial stage. Let's monitor this in just 2 months. That's too early. Let's monitor this possibly towards the end of the financial year, and then we can make a meaningful conclusion as far as the e-levy is concerned. The government will then be able to say that, look, the e-levy is not working, and so we want to review all the impact that the e-levy is bringing. I think that is increasing tax revenue, and so we want to continue or even revise or review the rates.
So you agree with those who say it's too early to say this is a failure and it should be reviewed? You're saying that we should monitor this for some time?
Yes, I think using just 2 months to make a conclusion too early. I think that we should allow the system to run. I think that sometimes, the frequency of our tax policy changes is a bit worrying, because sometimes we have said that the consultation is a bit minimal. But once the policy has been implemented, I think that it's important that we monitor for some time to be able to make a meaningful conclusion and not be in a rush just because for 2 months it has not been yielding the expected revenue, and so we rush to go and review that. Not forgetting the fact that frequent reviews will mean that businesses will have to go back, those who have to use the systems will have to go back to redesign their systems again within this short period of time. That significantly affects the ranking for doing business in Ghana. One of the factors that is considered in ranking or rating the doing business in Ghana has been the frequency of tax changes or amendment to tax laws. And so if you do that too frequently, there's so much uncertainty in the minds of investors. And I think that there's a need for that level of stability.
George, 10% of estimated revenue, that is so discouraging, if you ask me. I know you're saying that, it's too early to call for a review, but is there any way the tax policy can be restructured to encourage more people to, put them or sort of transact business using the Momo so we can get our revenue?
Yes, definitely something can be done. I think that you also agree with me that the education was not enough as far as the e-levy is concerned now. And even to date, you see that people are not too sure on transactions that the e-levy should apply on, whether when they withdraw money from certain quarters or when they withdraw money from their Momo account, e-levies will apply on them. And so there's the need for continuous education as far as the e-levy is concerned, so that consumers or users will be a bit more clear as far as this particular levy is concerned. You know, the initial objective of the target market was to address the informal sector, but it happens that not necessarily the informal sector are the ones paying this, but then even the formal sector, you and I, who are paying so much taxes already, are also impacted. So definitely, you and I will be thinking of reducing our transaction values. But as I said, more education will mean that more people also get on board, because it is such that as you try to go out of the e-levy, you also want to put value on the time that you are using to do physical or cash transactions, and sometimes you want to reconsider that as well. So I think I perfectly agree to the fact that we have not met the needed revenue, but some revenue have come. Let's do more education. Let's monitor for a few months to then see how this whole e-levy has brought in revenue that we can use that to check whether there's a complete review, whether the whole levy should be scrapped or reduced downwards or whatever.
But it appears the government has banked its hopes on the e-levy. I'm just wondering, what other tax policy measures can we think of, or the government has run out of options?
I would say that we have a lot of tax laws for taxes already, as far as Ghana is concerned, and I think that it is more of we trying to be efficient in our tax collection system. I know the GRA has done so much already in the past 2 years, I would say. You see that for 2021, they have always been exceeding their revenue targets. I think largely because of the efforts that the authority has put in using technology to make it easy for tax payments and all that. But I think more can be done to bring in the informal sector. That if you remember, somewhere in 2018, there was a law that was passed. It's called Physical Electronic Device law that was passed, basically to ensure that the informal sector can use this to bring in the necessary. We have not implemented this for whatever reason, I don't know. But we have the laws. It is the implementation of some of these laws that we are not putting effort on for that reason. To look at if there's a need for review, there's a need for additional taxes to be introduced. I don't think where we are now, we need additional taxes. We rather need to look at the existing law, how to do it well. I think that will help us to get the necessary revenue that we are.
And the final one, so the finance minister, Setekwe, commenting about this, said we do not need a tax policy, we need effective tax administration. He says we need to revamp our tax laws. Do you agree with that to a large extent?
Yes, and I think that he mentioned also that the first phase has been done, the GRA integration of the three revenue organizations, the IRS, Customs, and then the VAT has been put together. And so already, I think that is working well. We just need to continue to ensure that the three units are working effectively. What you see practically is that, especially with the customs unit, not working closely with the other two units. And so different audits are carried out, whilst the domestic tax is looking at the transaction very high, customs is looking at the same transaction with the high. So, given what the GRA has put in, I can say that I would rather encourage them to continue to do what they are doing and even do more. I know that in the few years they have tried to take professionals even from the big four professional services tax experts that they have brought into the system to make sure that they are helping to do the kind of audits that will bring in the revenue that you expect. And so it is more of continuous effort by the GRA so that their personnel are up to the speed, understand tax laws very well, make sure that the necessary revenues are being
okay.
Also, I think it's important that government or the authority looks at, for instance, the tax appeals board to make tax payers have a bit more confidence within the system. This law has been passed in terms of ensuring that the board is in place to allow taxpayers to be able to have an intuitive platform to discuss their tax issues. I think that's the big lacking for that to push forward to make sure that there is some level of confidence.
Okay. I appreciate your time with us this afternoon, George Ankrumah, the tax partner with Deloitte Ghana. Appreciate your time. Now let's move on to another top story. Pharmaceutical company Intravenous Infusions PLC has announced an increase in revenue of 9.6% for the 2021 financial year. According to the company, the growth in revenue resulted in a profit before tax of 1.4 million cedis compared to 1.3 million cedis recorded in 2020. Speaking at the company's annual general meeting, board chairman Isaac Osei said the company is unable to declare dividend due to planned measures to expand operations.
For us at this time to upscale our operations, and this requires us to build a new factory, and we are going to do exactly that. In view of this, you will notice that the shareholders who actually own the company, and there are many shareholders here today, we've just decided, the board felt it was a duty for us to ensure that as much cash as is possible is retained in the company so that we do not increase too much our loan portfolio. We want to use the internal cash. And so this year we are not paying our dividends. But over the past few years, we've been paying consistently, even though we are not a huge company.
In other news, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority has shown its procurements in the last couple of years, ranked it as the best institution in the public sector. According to Deputy Director of Procurement and Stores, Dr. Robert Kwekute, the agency prioritized value for money whilst pursuing innovation. He was speaking to Joy Business after receiving 4 awards, including Public Sector Procurement Personality at the just-ended Africa Procurement and Supply Chain Awards in Accra.
Innovations introduced at the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, such as digital integration with other national identity cards and issuance of driving license at a record time, have received commendation. According to the award organizers, Instinct Wave Procurement Unit contributed significantly to savings of many institutions in turbulent times. Deputy Director of Procurement and Supply Dr. Robert Kwekute noted that the infrastructure is being built to ensure more efficiency at the DVLA.
We ensure that we get value for money, and we ensure that we get the best, and we are always cautious of compliance to statutory requirements and then the laws, and we ensure that we get stuff in place in time to ensure that all this thing that you are seeing, all the changes and then the technology, the advancement you are seeing at the DVLA is because we've been able to put infrastructure in place at the right time, in the right qualities, and of course, bear in mind that we are getting value for money. That is why these things are happening.
The agency received 4 awards during the night. Meanwhile, the performance of other procurement and supply chain units in helping to cut costs at various public and private institutions were celebrated during the ceremony. Other winners included MTN Ghana, Anglo-Gold Ashanti Iduaprem, and Guinness Ghana. They say the award will spur them on to do more.
I think that this recognition here just confirms once again to the whole world, to the whole of Ghana, that Guinness Ghana is actually a company you can depend on anytime, any day for good quality products, and we're happy about this.
And the award that I had today means a lot to me. It means we have to have ethical procurement, and going forward, that is my idea, so that we can do good procurement within the country.
We're going to leverage on these awards to ensure that we bring an element of ESG into our procurement and our supply chain, focusing on creating shared value, not just for us as a business, but for our shareholders and all our stakeholders in the value chain.
The 4th Africa Procurement and Supply Chain Awards was under the theme Driving Excellence in Procurement and Supply Chain Management. It was held to also celebrate innovative personalities and outstanding industry players in supply chain.
And a final one this afternoon, government has been urged to implement policies directed at encouraging and supporting family businesses. Now, according to Managing Consultant of Family Office Africa, Dr. Theodore Albright, to grow these companies and act as an anchor for economic growth, an enabling environment is required. Speaking to Joy Business at the Africa Business Summit, he warned that Ghana's economy will collapse in the absence of effective legislation to promote such endeavors.
The aim of the Africa Family Business Summit was to bring together family business practitioners and help them to build a network that will allow them to share information and insights among themselves. Dr. Albright stressed on the need to invest in family business, indicating that the economy should be diversified to boost economic growth.
All over the world, it is private sector, the private sector, which undergirds and supports the economies of countries. Leave aside perhaps managed economies like China and perhaps Cuba. Most economies depend on the private sector to shore up the economy. It is the engine of growth for any economy that wants to succeed. And therefore, government policies should be made to support and encourage family businesses and business families, because that drives all economies across the world, whether it is the United Kingdom or the United States or indeed Germany.
Business psychologist Dr. Russell Takri, speaking on resilience, explained that business owners would have to cope with extreme stress-provoking events without experiencing any personal stress signs or symptoms.
And that's the marketplace this afternoon. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We have the day's latest stories over there. My name is Daryl. We'll be back here same time tomorrow. Do stay tuned.